With the newest Batman adaptation and the recent release of the Penguin series being heavily grounded in reality, I've had a thought that's been on my mind and a lot of other people's minds. Does Batman need to be fantastical? What I plan to do in this video is to discuss how intrinsically important the fantastical elements of the Batman mythos are to the character and to the world, and how those factors have been somewhat ignored as of late in live-action adaptations. When I say, does Batman need to be fantastical, I'm more so speaking in terms of the world surrounding the character being fantastical. Having his world and the characters he interacts with that really embrace the mysticism and sci-fi elements. At the end of the day, Batman's just a normal human man, but slightly ignoring the laws of physics can go a very long way. As I dive into this discussion, I want you all to be aware that I am referring specifically to live-action appearances of this character. I'm not talking about Batman the Animated Series or the Caped Crusader, none of that. The level of believability for a character like Batman goes way down when it's in an animated format. But when he's a real-life person, the idea is much more difficult to bring to life and much more difficult for audiences to buy into. So I'm sticking specifically to live action for this video. And hey, leave a like, it helps out a lot. We've had a long history of Batman on screen, ranging from wildly camp and stretching all the way into the gritty realism end of the spectrum. But the last 20 years, there seems to have been a heavy emphasis on making this character feel realistic and grounding Batman. Why is that? Well, let's take it to the beginning. The first significant live-action Batman was the Batman 66 series starring Adam West and Burt Ward.
Holy pressure cooker!
It was immensely silly, there was not a shred of seriousness to the series, and to a lot of the world at the time, this was how they viewed Batman. The guy with the shark repellent who runs down a pier carrying a cartoonishly large bomb. Someone who solves riddles with incredibly backwards and nonsensical logic.
Pretty fishy what happened to me on that ladder.
But wait! It happened at sea. See? C for Catwoman!
And the Batman who competed against the Joker in a surfing competition. It wasn't until 1989 that this character was given a splash of darkness with Tim Burton's Batman.
I'm Batman.
Although it was much darker aesthetically and tonally than the 66 series, it's still set in an extremely surrealistic world, and it's not exactly what I'd call realistic. It entirely operates on the rule of cool more than anything else. A gorgeous silhouetted batsuit that is so difficult to move in that they had to crane lift him out of the Batmobile. And speaking of the Batmobile, it has an incredible design that makes absolutely no sense. It has to grapple hook around lampposts to even turn around a damn corner. This continued evolution of the character leaned into the more surrealistic and fantastical elements with the follow-up sequel, Batman Returns, but with the main difference being how dark it gets.
A cool drink of ice water.
This sequel's grotesqueness caused the following Batman adaptations to fully lean into the camp and silliness to better cater to children, much in the same vein as the 66 series.
I want a car. Chicks dig the car.
The 66 series, Burton movies, and the Schumacher movies were very fantastical. The Schumacher films were such an extreme push into this world of Bat credit cards, ludicrous villains, and neon-soaked cityscapes designed to sell kids' toys that they were forced to course correct. And they course corrected hard. In 2005, Christopher Nolan took this at times goofy character and turned him into the Dark Knight. This trilogy is what really kicked off the age of realistic Batman. It was dark, it was grounded, and it was fucking awesome, completely dropping any pulpy comic book action that might have once been held by this character, and is instead replaced by a real-world vigilante. Taking Batman into a world that is essentially our own does allow this character to feel like he exists in real life. These movies were massive at the time, not only for Batman but for the superhero landscape as a whole, creating a new genre of dark and gritty films, for good or ill. It also just really helps that the Dark Knight trilogy is phenomenal. Well, at least the first two are.
For you.
Barely a tinge of fantastical elements were showcased outside of some sci-fi tech and a touch of mysticism, although this did lead to a Gotham that doesn't really feel like Gotham. Outside of Batman Begins, of course. Let's be honest, this is just Chicago. After the Nolan trilogy wrapped up, people were kind of itching for a very comic-accurate Batman. Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. And that's exactly what we got. A Batman that looks ripped straight off the pages of The Dark Knight Returns, with one major difference being...
guy around.
What about the people he murdered?
What murder?
It's funny because almost every live-action Batman does kill, but here it just feels way more blatant.
I will fucking kill you.
Although he isn't exactly comic booky in terms of his character, the world itself is very fantastical. He fights aliens, the tech is so advanced that it looks like something pulled straight out of Star Wars. A lot of this is because he was part of the wider DC extended universe at the time, and once that universe collapsed in on itself for a multitude of reasons, we got a new Batman. We got the Batman. If you thought the Nolan trilogy was grounded, this takes it a step further. If the Dark Knight trilogy aimed to make Batman exist in our world, the Batman aims to make Batman and Gotham feel like a real place in the world of DC, similar to our own in its own grounded way. A Batsuit built by Bruce and Alfred themselves, a Batmobile crafted out of a classic muscle car, a Gotham overrun by criminals, corrupt politicians, and not much else. Again, similar to the Nolan trilogy, only one or two sci-fi elements. Ever since the Nolan trilogy, it seems that a lot of filmmakers have had this obsession with turning the world of Batman into our own. All of those other elements that make this character what he is? Nah, cut it. How do we make it grounded? I think that filmmakers like Matt Reeves and Christopher Nolan think of Batman as a silly character in a lot of ways. That's why they push him into the realistic box. You can see how much of a jump Nolan makes from Batman Begins to The Dark Knight Rises. It feels like he hates the fact that he's making a superhero movie by the final film. However, there is an argument to be made that when you take a character like Batman and you turn him into this gritty and realistic character and bring him into a gritty and realistic world, it just makes the fact that he's a man dressing up like a bat to beat up criminals that much more ridiculous. This all to say that I still adore the Batman and the Nolan trilogy, but the ridiculous nature of the source material stands out way more when you make everything so goddamn serious. The most recent controversy was the decision to change Penguin's name of Oswald Cobblepot to Oz Cobb to make it more grounded. Matt Reeves has stated what he would consider too far for his universe. What was important to me was to find a way to take these pop icons, these mythical characters that everybody knows, and translate it so that Gotham feels like a place in our world. We might push to the edge of fantastical, but we would never go into full fantastical. It's meant to feel quite grounded. It doesn't mean that you won't see characters that people love. That's exactly what we want to do. Gentleman Ghost is probably pushed a bit too far for us to be able to find a way to do, but there is a fun way to think about how we would take characters that might push over into a bit of the fantastical and find a way to make sense of that. So entirely sci-fi elements aren't off the table in the Reeves verse, but mysticism essentially is. While we won't be getting the Gentleman Ghost, we still have a chance of getting a version of Mr. Freeze, albeit a heavily grounded version, which unfortunately could have its drawbacks. While I do understand that Matt Reeves likes trying to take Batman characters and find the grounded version for all of them, it might take away from the actual core of who that character is. Clayface, for example, a villain that has been rumored for the next Matt Reeves Batman film, is usually a giant shape-shifting clay monster. A very cool villain that I'd personally love to see. However, he couldn't exist in that form because he would have to be grounded to exist in this universe. I want to see the big monster Clayface. I don't know if I want to see a grounded version of Clayface, because it'd probably just be this guy.
You want the protein? I got the protein. Protein.
So at the end of the day, no, Batman does not need to be fantastical, but it's also a very important aspect of the character that can't entirely be ignored. After what many consider an oversaturation of grounded Batman media, A fantastical version of the character is what a lot of people, including myself, have been itching for. If you pick up any Batman comic nowadays, you'd probably open the issue up to him fighting Solomon Grundy, Killer Croc, or Poison Ivy. Characters you probably wouldn't see otherwise in these realistic universes. The potential of a fantastical Batman is limitless, and in many ways, a core part of the character's identity. The things that Batman is able to achieve in these comic stories are nearly inhuman. Sure, he's a person who is in peak human form, but that can't explain away everything. I'd say the perfect example of a blend of somewhat grounded and fantastical elements is the Batman Arkham series. The games do take themselves seriously for the most part, but never shy away from showing extremely out there villains. Clayface, Mr. Freeze, Killer Croc, Man-Bat, all of these characters can be found in the Arkham games, and they're not watered down at all. This is how you adapt this character and world to be fantastical while maintaining a serious tone that is often necessary in Batman stories. While I may be tiring of a grounded version of the character, I love the current Batman universe that Matt Reeves and his team have crafted. It's my favorite Batman film, bar none. Even though it's grounded, I get excited talking about how different characters can get reinterpreted into this world. What would a grounded Mr. Freeze look like in the Reeves verse? How would he reinvent Scarecrow for this world? Whatever he does, I'm looking forward to seeing it. So, we have a highly grounded Batman universe that is very popular, but doesn't entirely utilize the fantastical world of DC Comics, and a group of people waiting to see a fantastical version of this world and its character. So, what do we do? James Gunn's new DC universe is the answer. The Batman epic crime saga will be underneath the DC Elseworlds label, whilst the mainline DCU will have their own version of Batman in the Brave and the Bold, one which I assume and hope will fully embrace the immensely fantastical world of DC. There was also recent confirmation that the traditional monstrous Clayface will be making an appearance in Creature Commandos, so I'm getting what I and a lot of fans were wanting. And while editing this video, we got news of an upcoming Clayface horror film written by Mike Flanagan, which sounds awesome. I know there was a lot of disappointment when it was confirmed that Robert Pattinson's Batman would not be integrated into this new DCU, but I honestly think it's better this way. This version of Batman is so dark and heavily grounded that it'd feel wrong to have him dropped into this new, vibrant, and highly comic-accurate universe that James Gunn is building. On the topic of two Batmen, there is of course the concern that general audiences will be confused by the existence of two Batmen running simultaneously, but I think not enough people have faith in the general public. Audiences quickly understood the at times out there concept of multiverses in these comic book movies, and now a movie like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse can become a massive hit with the general public. So the concept of having two separate Batmen exist concurrently shouldn't be a problem in my eyes. I have an easy solution to this problem. Not only are these two different versions of Batman going to have different tonal goals, but the world they inhabit will have drastically different aesthetics. I think it's time we break out the classic blue and gray Batsuit. Man, I have been waiting to see this bad boy on the big screen. What better way to separate the grimdark noir Batman from the fantastical Batman than a change in color scheme? It doesn't have to be super vibrant either, just hit me with the Jim Lee style navy blue Hush Batsuit and we'll be golden. So, what do you think? Does Batman need to be fantastical? Do you prefer a grounded version or a fantastical version of this character? And are you concerned with the possibility of having two Batmen exist at the same time? Let me know in the comments down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you like this video and you want to see more like it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.